The early 2000s were a wild time for cars. Everyone remembers the Mitsubishi Evo VIII, the WRX STI, and the MK4 Supra, but not every performance car from that era became a household name. Some got lost in the shuffle in the shadow of their more famous siblings, or were simply overlooked because of bad timing, bad branding, or just plain bad luck. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the forgotten heroes of the early 2000s. Cars that might not have dominated Gran Turismo or Need for Speed or Fast and Furious, but still brought some serious performance and personality to the table. Let's start with a car that Mazda desperately wanted to get right, the MazdaSpeed Protegé. In the early 2000s, every manufacturer was making a performance sedan. Subaru had the WRX, Mitsubishi had the Lancer Ralliart and Evo, and Mazda was like, hey, we can do that too. We'll enter the 2003 MazdaSpeed Protegé, a four-door compact sedan with turbocharged ambition. At its heart was a 2-liter inline-4 turbo built by Callaway Cars. Yes, Callaway, the same company known for building monster Corvettes. They helped Mazda squeeze 170 horsepower and 160 feet-pound of torque out of the Protegé. Not staggering numbers by today's standards, back in the early 2000s, it put the Protegé on a relatively level playing field with competitors like the Civic Si and the SVT Focus. The car came with a factory upgraded suspension by Racing Beat, a limited slip differential, and upgraded brakes, of course. It even had a Kenwood MP3 head unit, which was like all the rage in the early 2000s, and Sparco seats, which was like getting a free VIP starter pack to the tuner seat. But what really set it apart was Racing Beat's custom-tuned exhaust, which gave the Protegé a mean-sounding growl, especially for a factory car. Unfortunately, the MazdaSpeed Protegé struggled to find its footing. At around $20,000 brand new out of the box, it was more expensive than rivals with similar performance. Plus, it was front-wheel drive in a market starting to go all in on all-wheel drive. Today, the Protegé has aged into a quirky, underappreciated car. You find a clean one, you throw in a bigger turbo, and all of a sudden, you've got a sleeper build that punches way above its weight class. Now, next up, we're coming over here to the US. Kind of, with the Chrysler CROSSFIRE SRT6, a car that's as misunderstood as it is weirdly impressive. First, let's address the elephant in the room. No, it's not actually a Chrysler, it's a rebadged Mercedes-Benz R170 SLK, but Chrysler slapped on their badge and hoped that no one would notice. It's like the let me copy your homework meme. Under the hood, it packed a 3.2-liter supercharged AMG-sourced V6, hand-built by AMG and pushing 330 horsepower and 310 feet-pound of torque. You pair this up with a 5-speed automatic transmission, and the Chrysler CROSSFIRE could hit 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, quicker than a Mustang GT of its same era. The suspension was stiffer, the brakes were larger, and the wheels were wrapped in sticky Michelin tires straight from the factory. Now, in terms of performance, this thing was no joke. The downside? Well, the downside was obvious. It's the design. The Chrysler CROSSFIRE looks like a squished loaf of bread. Its awkward proportions and Chrysler badge kept it from being taken seriously in the tuner scene, or frankly, the car market as a whole. But here's the kicker. The CROSSFIRE SRT6 is dirt cheap today. You can find one for under 15 grand, and with some bolt-ons like a smaller supercharger pulley, upgraded intercooler, intake, exhaust, headers, all that jazz, you can make over 400 horsepower. If you can get past the looks, and that's a struggle, this car is an absolute steal. Now let's talk Pontiac GTO. A car that should have been a hit, but somehow got lost in translation. Reviving the legendary GTO nameplate, Pontiac brought this car to the States from Australia, where it was originally sold as a Holden Monero. Under the hood, you had a choice of two legendary engines, the LS1 in 2004, making 350 horsepower, or the LS2 in 05-06, which bumped that up to 400 ponies. Both were paired up with a T56 6-speed manual or a 4L60 4-speed automatic, and the rear-wheel drive platform gave the GTO its proper muscle car credentials. The problem? People hated how it looked. Critics called it a Cavalier on steroids, which was brutal, but fair to be honest with you. While it did perform very well, enthusiasts expected more aggressive styling for a car wearing the GTO nameplate. But here's the thing, the GTO's performance was incredible. It could hit 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and with a few mods, your standard LS fair cam heads, long tubes, tune, etc., you can make 500 plus horsepower at the wheels. Today, it's a sleeper muscle car that you can snag for under $25,000, depending on your market, heck, maybe even under 15, and that's a bargain for LS power. Now, one of my favorite cars of all time, the Volkswagen R32 Mark IV. Back in 2004, it was overshadowed by cars like the WRX Evo, but if you're a Volkswagen Volkswagen fan, you obviously know about this car and its potential. The Mark IV R32 came with a 3.2-liter VR6 engine producing 240 horsepower and 236 feet-pound of torque. It had Volkswagen's Haldex all-wheel drive system, a 6-speed manual transmission, sportier suspension, and everything else you'd expect from a factory performance car. The R32 wasn't about crazy straight-line speed though, it was about balance. The VR6 delivered buttery smooth power through a wide power band, and the all-wheel drive gave it insane grip, making it a weapon in corners. Inside, the R32 felt premium. It had leather seats, brushed aluminum trim, and features that were more Audi than Volkswagen. The downside? It was pricey. At $30,000, it cost as much as an STI or an Evo, but it wasn't as fast or as aggressive. Today, the R32, much like the Mark IV as a whole, is a cult classic, and clean examples are climbing in value. If you want one, act fast, because your days of finding an R32 for under $20,000 are numbered. Finally, we have the Chevy Cobalt SS Turbocharged, a car that proved you did not need to spend a fortune to go fast. Under the hood was a 2-liter turbocharged Ecotec engine making 260 horsepower and 260 feet-pound of torque. It came with a 5-speed manual transmission and a limited slip differential, and it was ridiculously quick. 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, but what really made the Cobalt SS special was its handling. This car set a Nürburgring lap time of 8 minutes 22 seconds, faster than an E46 M3. That's right. This little Chevy could outpace one of the most iconic sports cars of all time. The downsides, and there were many, the interior felt cheap and the styling was not exactly inspiring. But the Ecotec engine did respond very well to mods, and with a larger turbo injected intercooler downpipe the standard turbo upgrade path, you could hit 400 horsepower on the stock bottom end easily. So let's wrap it all up. The early 2000s weren't just about the usual suspects that we've grown to know and love today. These forgotten heroes proved that performance came in all shapes and all sizes and all price points. Whether you're into turbocharged compact cars like the Protege and the Cobalt, supercharged oddballs, or muscle cars with an Aussie accent, there's something here for everyone. So if you're looking for a unique project, or you just want something different to take to the next car meet, give these underdogs a second look. Who knows? You might just fall in love. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button, click the subscribe button, drop a comment down below. One day I'll figure out where like and subscribe go, but that day is not today, and I'll see you in the next one.